Thank you for listening in, joining in today. My name is Arun, and you are with the AI with Arun show. So we're very thrilled to have Manjeet Singh join us. Manjeet is a product executive with a very deep technical background and over 25 years of experience in the enterprise software and the AI industry. He has held leadership roles at Salesforce, where currently he's a senior director. But before that, he has worked at HP and at ServiceNow, where he spearheaded the development of innovative AI products and drove significant revenue growth. Manjeet is passionate about building not only his own body, he's a fitness freak, but he's also building high performing teams, developing product led growth strategies, advising early stage startups. He's a prolific inventor, and I think he has about 15 patents in AI and ML related. So, Manjeet, a very warm welcome to our show.
Arun, I am thrilled to have on Arun's with the AI with Arun show. So thanks for having me. No, I'm super stoked because I think the topic we are going to talk about, it's very close to what I have been kind of, I would say, spending, living, breathing from last about a year or so.
Wonderful. So, Manjeet, let's jump right into the show. So how would you define AI agents? I know you write a lot about AI agents, you work on them day in and day out. And like you said, you have been living and breathing. So how would you define AI agents and how do they differ fundamentally from, let's say, traditional chatbot or the automation tools?
Yeah, I think that one is I mean, I can give you one line of definition. Basically, it's a piece of software that can do the task on your behalf in few different forms. It can be an assistive, like, hey, just like Copilot sort of thing, or it can be autonomous, right? It can completely take the action based on what it knows and then basically get the work done. I think the net is the best way to understand this is how we got here, because you will see one school of thought is, hey, this is not new. We have been working with this conversational interface, different forms. I remember the first solution I built at ServiceNow was basically the, hey, can you my system is locked, can you help reset the password? So we literally look at the very frequently asked questions, and then we automated that through a rule-based logic. And since then, we have come a long way from rule-based to when ChatGPT came along, and when these large language models really made it easier to build out these assistive agents. And I think where we are right now is more going towards this autonomous agent. So that's what I have been working on. I mean, in Salesforce, we built our Agentforce platform. So think of Agentforce platform is that lets you build those agents for and let you test, deploy for different use cases. And our primary focus is CRM. So how do we apply for sales, marketing, service, and a few other domains that we serve our customers kind of from Salesforce business standpoint.
So Manjeet, we'll jump into those specific use cases, but there are two things that stand out for the AI agents. One is about their decision-making process, and the other one is about problem solving. So talk to our viewers about how do these things actually work together?
Yeah, so I think it's very, very similar to like how we human works in a way, right? Because whenever, let's say, we have to do any task, for example, let's take podcast recording as an example, right? We are talking about a topic, and as you are asking questions, I'm taking that questions, and in my mind, kind of, I'm reasoning it. What would be a good answer, or what would be a good next step. So very similar to that. If we, that's how I think these agents are getting built and stitched together these days. So now let's make it more real. I think there's three main pieces that basically can, the autonomy of an agent. One is the ability to understand the intent when you ask something or give it a task, or whether it's the conversational interface, or whether it's the headless agent, which means it is running in the background, doesn't matter. So it has to understand what you are saying, then take what you are asking it to do, and then reason it and plan it. Like, okay, yeah, Arun wants me to answer these questions. Now let me see if it is a one task or multiple task. I think that the number two, which is reasoning and planning, is where the recent breakthrough has happened through these LLM models, specifically kind of post GPT 4.0. That's where we have seen a significant jump in the accuracy and the quality improvements. Before that, there were like a lot of POCs and demos floating around, but now you started to see it's like, okay, this thing is becoming useful for my use case, whether it's a customer service or whether it's a sales use case. And the third thing is, you basically where you want to use it, right? Let's say in case of sales, you maybe want to use it to do your opportunity discovery, or like in case of customer service, you want to answer your frequent questions that your people are reaching out to you, or so I think if you look into these three together pieces, that's what it comes, comes together, and that's where it becomes useful. Not the individual as like, hey, this agent is just kind of laying down there, but it is not interacted or connected to a channel or an interface where your users are going to interact.
Wonderful. Manjeet, you spoke about LLMs, large language models, right? That was the second point. So how are large language models being used in these agents?
Yeah, so I think a large language model is the main brain behind it. So think of when, let's take like a known agent scenario, right? I'm sure many of the people who are listening, they have used ChatGPT. It becomes more of a consumer product now. And when you ask a question, it's basically you're prompting, and it goes to the LLM, and LLM take that prompt, respond back, right? So this is a single turn. And this is like something kind of a lot of knowledge retrieval scenarios and those like simple scenario. Now let's think about a complete task or a set of tasks. Now in that case, it's not just like, hey, here's my prompt and give me the answer. What you are doing in the agentic or agents flow or agentic workflow is you are asking is like, hey, what is the best way to do this? So which means there is multiple calls happening to the LLM. So LLM is not just responding not just the next word prediction. It is taking a step back. Okay, let me understand what's my jobs to be done, but based on what goal am I given? So LLM is literally, that's the prompt. Okay, you are asking me now, let me see what are my options. What do I know? What do I don't know? Do I already have that knowledge in my pre-training? Or do I have to go and search the web and find out the information? If the question is like, hey, for example, what's the stock price for Google today? So that information is not there in my pre-trained model. So I'll kind of go outside and then kind of search it. So if you see in this one, it's not just a one LLM call. It's a multiple LLM call back and forth between the user, kind of your user interface or touch point, whatever you're using, to the LLM and giving you the response. So I think it's still the simplest one when you think about multi-agents and then human feedback in between. I think even a single conversation, happy to give some examples, it becomes just like, you are sitting in a room with your, like in an office scenario, and two people literally trying to solve a problem.
So Manjeet, let's actually go into the example. Maybe if you can, given your background also in Salesforce CRM, right, where CRM is the core use case that you're trying to solve with all the AI agents that Salesforce is building. If you could give maybe two examples, one from, let's say, the sales side. So let's say on the lead to opportunity to sales side, right. And maybe another one from the customer services side. And those are very two core use cases, especially for a company like Salesforce, as well as for a lot of people who listen into our channel.
Right. Sure. I think let's look at the sales use case. Let's say if you works in the sales organization, whatever your role is, SD or AE, and then so typically you want to see, hey, what are the basically leads and opportunities do we have? So if I'm a, let's say, manager, I might ask a question to the agent, which is something like, hey, find out what are the top 30 opportunities in North America, and find out how many of them are not updated in the last 7 days. And then draft an email to those which are not being updated as a follow-up. And then find out what are the top 3 opportunities that I should basically, prioritize on the top. So if you look at, this is kind of a jobs to be done from the, let's say the salesperson who is like looking into data today manually, and then maybe the data is in a spreadsheet, or let's say in Salesforce CRM. So without agent, that's kind of the journey, right? What you will do is, okay, you have multiple dashboard and report, and you're kind of trying to do that exercise and then stitching together those reports. Versus now, this is how agents will basically handle that. Let's say if you take that multi-step prompt, you put it in there, then what happens is the agent takes it And then we call it a kind of a planner service behind the scene as part of the Agentforce platform. So the planner service take that combined prompt together and then try to understand like how many tasks are involved in this one. So basically kind of breaking and reasoning and then going in, oh, you're asking for top opportunities from North America. So then it knows where the data is into CRM because you integrated that agent into Salesforce CRM. So it will go to the opportunity table, just like how you will do it, maybe writing SQL query, and then the next is you have that. The good thing about other important piece, I think I should have mentioned as like when you were asking is the memory, because previously LLM didn't have any memory. You ask a question, and unless you create your profile and probably it's like custom chat GPT sort of thing, it remembers. It's again prompt. But now this LLM stack, we have built these memories. Right now it's still short term, and then I think where we are kind of evolving is a lot more long term memory, specifically when you think about interactions between the agents. You need to have the memory. Hey, this agent did one task, now I'm handing off into other. Then I have to wait once that agent finished the task, come back to me. Then I have to stitch together and give you the response. So I think this memory, this agent layer having the memory behind the scene, that's what making it possible. Because when you're asking the LLM again and again, you're sending that kind of meta prompt, combining what things have already been discovered, 30 opportunities. Now I have to draft 5 email. So that's another LLM call. So it will take the information and then email. So that's how the kind of journey continues. And the good thing is, think of these kind of different steps. Some solutions you can like, hey, you stream the response as the progress is happening. Like if we see, I think in the chat GPT, the other is like, oh, you finish whatever you're doing. I'm thinking, I'm doing, and then finally you say like, hey, here's the result for task 1, task 2, task 3. That's more on the UX side. I think it's going to evolve how these agents going to be get consumed, and then there's one sort of a lot of innovation happening into like what's the future of UX in this agentic space. There's a bunch of I think the explorations less ideas like Canvas. Everybody's launching Canvas these days, but to me that's I think we're still scratching the surface. When humans and agent works together, we need to figure out I think some better ways to have the kind of this UI layer, how it will evolve.
Yeah, that's a very interesting one. Yeah, because we are used to working with humans and looking at spreadsheets. But in the example that you ran with Manjeet, so let's walk a little bit behind the scenes on the technology side. So you obviously probably have a layer of SQL code that's being generated that goes to the opportunity table and fetches you the top 30 opportunities. And there's also the email generation part that goes in, right? How are you? And when you said that, third question that the manager would ask is, what are the top things that I should prioritize on? So how are you sort of taking that into a technology layer and converting that into something meaningful back to the manager?
Yeah. So in our case, see, basically, the fundamental levels you have, hey, like your data layer, wherever that data is, opportunity data, or if you want to go. So we have the kind of the core CRM data, but then we also have the data cloud offering. So you can stream or connect data with anywhere else that you have, like, your S3 bucket or Snowflake, and then, right? Because sometimes you ask the question that cut across, it's not just in the CRM system of record. It might go into your ERP systems or your Workday systems. And then, so I think in the larger enterprise, that's kind of the one piece behind the scene. The second is we talked about the large language model, and that's where you have to find the balance. What questions that you can directly query using RAG versus the when you really want to call the LLM. Otherwise, it becomes very chatty behind the scene. And then what happens is then you're consuming more tokens, and then your trade-off is your cost goes up. So in fact, that's one of the challenges that right now we have is to really drive the adoption of the agents. Still, it's very chatty behind the scene because various reasons, right? The memory is there, but I think it has to be better. And then, so I think the cost has to come significantly down. And I'm confident it will happen because in the last 6 months, costs have dramatically dropped by at least 4 or 5x across the board, whatever kind of the model of your choice. And Yeah, so the approach we have is kind of from the LLM side, we have a very kind of flexible strategy. Of course, we have our own LLMs, we fine tune them, but then also like, hey, you use your choice. We are not, I would say, we are not in love with any LLM, to be honest, and I should not be, because that's how this thing is moving. Where you bring kind of this innovation is this integrations, access to data, security and trust, super important. We invested into our trust layer very early on because we knew enterprises are not going to adopt if we just rely on the LLM to do the, let's say, hallucination or toxicity or bias or kind of those scenarios. So I don't know. I mean, I can go into more details. Let's say
But
very
this is helpful. This is helpful, Manjeet. Manjeet, actually, let's jump on to the other example, which is on the customer service side, right? So
right.
that example was on the sales side. Now let's jump on to another example from the customer services side, and if we can maybe use an example from that world and see how this all technologies tie together, or the AI agents tie together.
Right. So I think the number one use case in the customer service is people asking questions that can be answered using somewhere the knowledge buried in knowledge articles or in a PDF file, or right. So that's the I think the great starting point that a lot of kind of companies have these two, and then the kind of, I would say, if you're starting one use case, it is one knowledge retrieval, because that's a big challenge, right? In the sense, because when you look at some knowledge is in my structured data, like let's say the knowledge articles in Salesforce, but then you also have your policies and document. And that's where I think the greatest innovation in this kind of entire bucket is the ability for LLM to retrieve the information, the right information with the right context, very fast. I mean, I was playing with the Gemini 2.0 that came out. I mean, it feels like magic how fast it responds. And then, just like Google search, and I'm like, how? I mean, you keep kind of wondering because it's such, the behind the scenes, so much data, and it's able to kind of give. So I think that's where. But let's look at the more multi-step kind of example from the customer service, right? So one is that, hey, I'm interacting with agent for service agent, which is our customer facing agent. And you can put that agent into your wherever, like say website. Okay. So for example, you are let's say you are e-commerce website. Okay. You can take that agent and then it's like, hey, this agent will help you basically plan or find or buy anything. And he was like, Arun was like, hey, Manjeet, I am going to, or not Manjeet, you'll talk to the agent in this case. So you'll be like, hey, I'm planning to go on hike. Today is Friday and on Saturday, and suggest me what should I buy. Okay. And then it'll basically, and then it's like, you know what? I am planning to go with my family. I have, two kids. And then, so you can do it in kind of one prompt or like the back and forth, doesn't matter, because the big good thing is these agents handle the multi-turn conversation beautifully now. I think the accuracy has really reached to a point where they remembers what did you ask in the beginning, starting from the your like just the like, hi, how are you, to conversation to when you're asking what you really need, right? Okay, so now it is like, okay, you know what, looks like this is going to rain tomorrow, then what else I should kind of factor in so that I can go into. So what all this comes down to is, given the current scenario, given the personalization of Arun's need, demand, who Arun is, and then so you can, I think, take this example and make it as complex as well. What it, I think, literally comes down to is a very highly personalized experience for you when you are contacting to the customer support agent or customer service agent in this case. And I think that becomes very delighting, because it's just like, you're talking to the most trusted experienced advisor, and that person is like, okay, how about this, are you going alone? Or so they will ask you questions, and then so that way you end up buying the right thing, and then it drives the, in this case, business for this e-commerce site, but also the higher customer satisfaction, and then yeah.
Obviously, these multi-agent systems that you're speaking about, right? They seem to be more complex. And so, are you seeing organizations, your customers, implement single AI agents and multiple AI agents, and some of the challenges that they are seeing? So, is one more complicated than the other in terms of implementation?
Yeah, so I think where everybody's as of December 2024 is basically single agent scenario. The and in 2025 is where I think we will go into some of the multi-agent scenarios. And let me tell you why this is happening, and then what needs to happen for really multi-agent. In general, of course, anything we think about multiple, it's bring more complexity, it's hard, and then but there's few breakthrough needs to happen to really make it scalable and sense from the cost to serve standpoint. Right now, the best way to build an agent is if you make the scope not open-ended, like very kind of targeted for right. And if you look at these two examples we were talking earlier, this is like, hey, just the e-commerce, and this purpose is like, hey, from the product catalog, my goal is to recommend you the best products that's available that meets your need, right? So it's not like going left and right, and then the agent is, it's okay if it doesn't recite a poem in French, so it's okay, that's not the goal, right? So, and that's where like so there's a couple of things. What's the role? Because these days you create the agent, what data it has access to, knowledge. Then the third one is where you want to integrate it. Is mobile channel or website, or you kind of you name it. And then the third is kind of the trust and guardrails, or like the fourth item. So I think these two, that's how kind of you think. And then one's kind of, and so in our, since we launched Agentforce, so what we are seeing is customers are creating this role-based agent. Hey, then depending, let's say I'm a product manager, can I have a agent for that can help write me PRD and can help write me, my mockups, and then, so it's more kind of specialized. But so that's where if you see, okay, how much automation and efficiency it will drive, it will be pretty helpful. It will make me productive. But at the same time, it's when I think about, can I go from 30-40% to 50-60%, that's when you have a need of multi-agents, because you can create multiple agents, but then you want them to talk to each other. The classical workflow example that I use is, let's say if you take procure to pay, right? And this cut across even multiple platform, right? If you are taking requests from ServiceNow, and then you are going and creating purchase order in Ariba or like SAP, and then you are sending it approval through the email. So then in this case, what you're talking about is the agents that's kind of doing those specific steps. And if you want to automate such a workflow, that's where you will. The challenge right now is there is so many frameworks out there. I think as an industry, as in a community, we are trying to figure it out, what's the kind of right framework for multi-agent. Right. So if you look at like right, the of course there's a bunch of open source like LangChain and kind of the even Llama Index and many others, and then we have our own. We think that will fit the best from CRM enterprise standpoint. Yeah, the reasoning engines is still not at par to meet the multi-agent scenario. So LLM has to evolve, memory has to be better, and the cost has to come down.
Right. So, Manjeet, you're sort of already hitting upon the future, which is our second segment of our show. So, where do you see this multi-agent play in the next, let's say, 5 or 10 years? I'm guessing in the last 5 to 10 years, will there be any role for single agents?
There will be a role, because I think the single agents is where you will get the highest accuracy and more specific scenarios. Because, in fact, I think my prediction is the 50% of the scenarios, single agent is good enough. Because, right, going back to my example, I don't want my customer support agent to recite a French poetry, right? Because it's like, hey, I'm selling shoes, and if my agent just can handle those queries, that's it. I mean, I don't have to have the knowledge about the rest of the world, and probably don't need even handoffs. So I think the more clear role and scope you can give, we call them topics and skills behind the scene. So the more clearly it is defined, then you will have more determinism in because that's the challenge with this system. They are non-deterministic. Same questions you ask back to back, different responses, and sometimes it's kind of, the intent is misinterpreted. And as let's say a user or as a software kind of providers, we are so used to of this, like, if I give input A, the output is B, but and that's how we were doing testing. And so now all of these is like being changed because there's a fear of unknown. What if this response is not exactly like that? Is it still relevant? Is it still accurate? Or so there's a lot of, when you have so much subjectivity, I think that's where my take is that 50%, no matter how bullish we become about multi-agent, 50-60% of us go with the single agent scenario.
Wonderful. And you expect that, Manjeet, the next 5 to 10 years also, right? But of course, as you said, the multi-agent will become more cost-effective, right? More accurate in there, and the integration will be far more superior than what we have now. But then, to your point, the single agent are still here to stay. They're not going away anywhere.
Yeah, because it's like one way to see is if you see like in your company or in your kind of personal what type of task I do, and if you segment them, and so what you will find is there's more than 50% where there is no use of multi-agent. It's just like going and finding answer or taking an action. Let's say write an email. It's just a single agent scenario or summarize. Right? If you let's look at the top 3 use cases today. Summarization is one of my best use case. Whenever, let's say, I took a break during Thanksgiving, I came back and like, hey, summarize these 1,000 Slack messages. And it was such a beautiful for me to digest and catch up in like 1 hour and everything, which was a challenge before these systems because I had to go through those emails and then, right? So summarizations, of course, writing, code generations, and those are, pretty much a lot of the single agent scenarios.
Understood. So, Manjeet, obviously, this is irrespective whether we use single agent or multi-agent. This is causing a lot of efficiency in the workforce, right? A lot of tasks are getting automated. So, what impact in the future do you see on the workforce dynamics? Because instead of just individuals working together, we now have individuals and agents working together, and so that's a workflow or workforce dynamics. And then on the job market stability itself. Where do you see the role of these agents have an impact on these two?
Yeah, no, I think this is the questions that has been coming with every I would say wave of automation, and it will stay. So the way I think about it is one is when I talk to people, and then even people, let's say, was like, oh, this AI thing is it's scaring me, and then how should I think about it? So first is let me answer it more of the individual perspective. And then I'll talk about teams and company and what sort of impact. I think that at the individual level, you should think of this as your personal productivity booster. You should think of it as an opportunity. How can I do more in same number of hours, or how can I do same amount and then relax and rejuvenate, or whatever people call it, more creatively, or just watch Netflix, doesn't matter, right? So I think where everybody is like some of the early adopters and people like us who are deep into this, we are seeing it like, okay, how can we do more in the same number of hours? And then, in fact, most of the startup that you see are very small these days, and they are able to build product faster because the coding assistance and all that. So this is kind of the the narrative. The second is the one difference I see is in any other previous automation tools that I've seen, right? Let's say in ServiceNow, we had the cloud workflow and then RPA and others. And then every time this narrative of job loss was very strong. But if you look back, what happened in the last 10 years, we have a lot more jobs. So which means more jobs got created. And then, but in this agent world, there's something different. It's not just kind of from the potential standpoint, and then it's not just like, oh, let's just think in case of an RPA, oh, it can take data from the spreadsheet and autofill so I don't have to do it. So that's kind of one task, and that's why you always had the same number of people required. In this case, so that is not going to happen. So then what that means, right? If in previously the more number of jobs got added, in this case, there will be jobs get added, right? Because I see so many people like, okay, everybody's turning kind of AI engineers and then all that. But there will be a delta into the people that will basically, the subset of tasks or jobs, whatever we will look at, that get replaced versus the new job gets added. So there will be a deficit. Earlier, it was always surplus. Some roles, the white collar, blue collar, if you look across the kind of those segments, earlier it's like, oh, if there's, the 10 people were replaced, then 12 were added. That was the scenario because data knowledge, AI, all the knowledge, move to cloud, digital transformations, mobile, and everything else. But I think now what's a little bit of kind of happening is because you can, with a small team, you can do more. So many companies are hiring less people. So I think there's two ways to look at it, right? One is, will the existing people, you and me will be lose job, or right? So that's kind of the one narrative. That's what basically. The second is if the companies don't hire more, because earlier the growth vehicle was, if you look especially in the pandemic, everybody was hiring, right? So that narrative has 100% change. So if hiring is less, even if people are not, let's say no kind of crazy firing going on, but if there's like the new jobs creation is less relatively, so I think that deficit will be there. I trying to remember a stat I saw that in the next 5 year, or if I'm remembering correctly, there will be like somewhere around like 100 million jobs will be lost, but then 80 million will be created with these different roles. Think of these are prompt engineers and then agent builders or multi-agent. So I think, but then this 20 million delta is where, let's see. I mean, that's kind of one, it's all kind of, we don't know the future. Nobody knows. We all can hypothesize. But given what has happened in the last 1 year, we going from just simple question answering machine to now they can do task on my behalf. I think it's an exciting time. We have to adopt. There's no other.
We have to adopt. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to predict the future. Like you said, jobs, there'll be different shift in the job paradigms,
Right.
but again, it's very hard to think one way or the other. So all right, let's leave that to another future discussion. Maybe you and I can come back after 5-6 years and look at this YouTube video again and think, what did we miss? But Manjeet, let's talk about some industries. All right. So some of the most profound impact that we see is in healthcare. We see it in retail. We see it in financial services. Right. And these kinds of tech are enabling all of these various use cases across these industries.
Right.
So to your point, where do you see these industries going in the next 3, 4, 5 years, and how are they going to use AI agents, irrespective of whether they're single or multi?
Yeah, so there's two lenses I've been looking at it. One is I'll come back to the industry, but more at the role level, right? So if you look at within the enterprise, like, hey, my IT, product, legal, finance, customer service. If you look at like no matter what industry you are in, you have these different functions. So which functions is going to be disrupted more versus less? So here I have some priority based on what I'm seeing, observing, in enterprise customer space. So I think the biggest benefit and / disruption is coming into your development and testing. Everybody is using copilots. They should be using if they are not. Otherwise, you are at a disadvantage. Even if you are building embedding system, I think these are getting great. The new models, look at Gemini 2.0. Then the second one is customer service, and customer service is both kind of the function versus an industry, right? And the other one is your sales and marketing. So that's kind of let's say if I have to pick top 3 within the functions. The others are, everybody will be impacted, but these are where I'm seeing the fastest and some great numbers. Our team adopted and we are seeing 30% boost into productivity or whatever kind of metrics they use. Now let's talk about the industry level, like healthcare, and then healthcare is, I think, I would agree is at the top. The reason being is healthcare has been very like the kind of use cases and that like used to very difficult because there's so much data and then it's very hard for humans to make sense out of their data. Like, let's say, hey, if you look at, I just give you one data point. I worked at Iron Mountain before this role, and then Iron Mountain stores this healthcare data, right? And then we used to store 1 billion plus scans, like the cancer scans and slide. So now if you think about it, it's humanly impossible to really find any insight, any nuggets from that data. Now LLM have made it is like piece of cake to the large extent. You can literally feed them into Google Doc AI, those images, and then you can ask whatever questions you want to ask. So what that means, it makes like so much some of this research work, and then it's which was not possible before, right? So I think the one it's like, hey, one narrative is bringing optimization into existing use cases or the problem that are already solved. Let's solve them in a better way. So that's, I think, that is exciting. But the more exciting is the problem which we were unable to solve before in previous, let's say, the automation tool set. This tool set is making it possible. And specifically, I think a lot of it goes back to these two pieces, able to understand the structure and unstructured and all multimodality kind of the data, right? Audio, video, text, and all that. And then all this reasoning capability in the LLM. So that's the magic, how it becomes possible.
No, good. That's great. I love the way you articulated those ideas along those different lenses, Manjeet. So thank you for that. So Manjeet, let's talk about two aspects. One is in the future workforce. We are clearly looking at humans interacting not just with humans, with agents, right? So in your opinion, what does that dynamics look like, that human-agent interaction, number one? And two, how do you see ethical considerations play a role in all this? Because obviously, your point, there's a lot of data sharing that's happening, right?
Right.
Behind the scenes, or access to data, some of that will be PII, some of that could be very personal data level of information about humans or objects or whatever that might be. So how do you see these two dimensions playing? One on the ethics side, the other one is on the human agent interaction.
Right. So let me touch on the human agents. I think there's two threads there. One is like the approach that we are taking, and most of the kind of things like, hey, let's put these agents into wherever we are working, in our browser, in our mobile phone, both kind of cloud-based versus edge, right? The small models, the big models, and make it as part of the workflow. Hey, if I'm in the Google Doc, if I want to summarize, give me the action right there. Why would I have to copy paste into ChatGPT? And then, so I think that's kind of and we believe in that theme. I think that's an important one. And that fits into my kind of narrative of is really AI expanding, let's say, customer 360 or PAM or whatever, basically, you name the space, whatever space. It's really opening up the opportunities to grow, use the human labor, capture the some of the services revenue and all that. So kind of I think that's the near term. The more is the second thread there is there's agents levels capability combined with reinforcement learning and then kind of the observation into a robot. I think that's where you see there's a lot of interesting work happening. Literally, you can have the robot standing with you. You show it how to make a coffee, and it will basically, see and make a coffee for you. That is scary and exciting at the same time. We honestly, I don't think we are ready for that kind of a world as a community. But I see that coming. In fact, I did a post 2 weeks ago on this, like, hey, these AI agents are all great, but can they fold my laundry? And then now I was like, hey, there's a couple of them, they can fold your laundry, because it's like maybe not a good use case for folding the laundry, but it's giving you kind of as an example to some of those where these things are going, right? So one is the kind of these software agents, but then second is these humanoids, right? These robots with the agent OS within them that can reason, that can also sense the physicality around me. Where am I? Is it safe? Yeah, so I think these are the two. What we will. I think I'm kind of excited about is quickly touching on. I think I'll go back to the kind of the security trust, and one unsolved problem right now is how do you manage these data sharing and permissions, specifically in the multi-agent world. It is an unsolved problem. If somebody is saying they have solved it, they're lying. To be honest, I'd love to see the demo. Please ping me on that. Yeah. Because I say, and we will solve it. I think it's just a matter of a little bit of understanding what frameworks sort of it fitting into, and then when you interact with multiple platform and data is floating around different kind of data lakes and all that, and having these guardrails in between. So I think the shortest solution everybody's taking is these policy-based guardrails. So what that means is, hey, I want these agents to don't, I don't want this agent to do this or only do this. You take those set of instructions, like, that, and then you put them into your agent configuration. Now agent will basically every time keep it like whether to allow or not allow. For example, if you see something, then don't send an email to customer directly, or right. So that's basically a guardrail for the agent so that it doesn't go and then right, because you see that example from Chevy, the guy bought in $1. So to avoid those kind of
Yes.
but I think all what it comes down to is the same. Some of these are same problem, to be honest, like even previous stack, the data storage, the permissions, and then, the data lineage. And for some customers, it is a big deal because if they don't have the full visibility, you are opening yourself for kind of the lawsuit or external risk.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I mean, the risks of cyber threats have just been growing exponentially. And
right.
I would imagine that in the multi-agent world, when you're exposed to more data, more, multiple agents at the same time, it just improves, increases the risk that you have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are multiple, regulations that governments have come in, right, and started to sort of shape the way the future of AI is being deployed. So, for example, use AI regulation. I mean, the US has been doing something. And likewise, we also talk about country-specific LLMs, right,
Right.
in the future world. So, in your opinion, how are all these regulations going to shape the future of AI or agent AI, right? The framework, the development, and the deployment of such AI agents.
Yeah, so see, I'm not expert in that space, but I'll tell you just how it will be similar how it has played out in some of the, let's say the some of the they see the what we know today, what's GDPR, what let's say California CSC or these others. So we will navigate those. I think some of these are known ones, like this government in this country, if they kind of so I think it's just matter of knowing what are the kind of those rules, and I think we all kind of will have to adapt to it. But it is I think the one unfortunate event kind of happened recently is right, that shooting that CEO, right, and then I don't know how true that it is, but the saying is, because somebody was mad because they were using AI agents to approve the insurance claim. I mean, it's like you're just tying it to it. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not just kind of, the throwing out an example. So when those kind of incidents happens, then you kind of step back and then it's like, okay, what sort of rule regulation we can have in place? But the way things are going, I think specifically in the US and this new government coming in, looks like I don't see any slowing down on innovation anytime soon. So I think it will keep going like this, and then we will adjust. There will be some kind of the good use, bad use, of course, a lot of good use, but also bad use example, and then you will handle through the different ways you can handle this at the model layer, at the guardrail, like the trust layer, like how we are approaching any input output that you will send. We will sanitize both of them. What you are asking to the agents. So we make sure if it is, let's say if you upload an image, we check whether this image is inappropriate or some nudity content, and then also when the agent is giving the response, we make sure you're not getting an inappropriate. So I think that's where, that in our case, we take it very seriously. The trust is our number one value. And then, that's where we don't care which LLM it is. We make sure the response we serve to the customer is of high quality.
And you are right. I mean, trust has to be the number one value for all of these companies which are involved in any kind of an AI related development, right? Because that's key for eventual usage and adoption. So Manjeet, we'll go to the next round of our show, which is called the rapid fire round.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get started. So my first question to you is true or false? AI agents will completely replace human customer service representatives within the next decade.
Overall false, but I think the part of the workflows will be automated. So one way to look at is like, level 1, level 2, level 3. I think there will be less levels, but the customer service is needed and should be there and will be there.
So for anybody who's watching in or would be listening in the future time, if you're a customer service rep, you got to learn AI, but again, relax. You're not losing your job anytime soon. All right. The next one. In one word, what is the biggest challenge facing AI agent developers right now?
Good evals, current right now. These are non-deterministic systems. People don't know how to test these and get confidence to turn them on in production.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. The third one, on a scale of 1 to 10, how close are we to achieving fully automated autonomous AI agents?
Yes, I think my score will be different depending on the day, to be honest. Sometimes these solutions surprised me and they feel magical. Other time it feel very dumb also, the questions. And then, so I don't know, I'm in somewhere in kind of like 4 right now. We have still a long way to go at different layers. Some we talked about, the memory, trust, the handoff and all that. So because that's where the how do we trust humans? So when do we reach to that level? It'll be a long time.
Okay. All right. The next one I have, so name one industry you believe will be most dramatically transformed by AI agents in the near future.
So I think I would say customer service and support, number one. Then we talked about healthcare at the industry level. At the functional level, I think it will be more coding and development because that's I think the second part. I mean, I said I look at it kind of two lenses, right? Within at the kind of the function role level versus the different industries. But I think the customer service will be the biggest beneficiary, specifically with multi-model. The voice channel is fantastic, and they feel so real that all those previous challenges are now big kind of solved to a large extent. Where no matter how noisy place you are, and they will not interrupt you, they will listen to so it's just like feels magical and transform like customer service, like all your call centers and others. And then I think it will be, yeah, you don't have to wait for, when you call Comcast for 15 minutes to in line. I think those days will be gone soon.
Yeah, wonderful. The next one, what is more important for AI agents? Improving their problem-solving capabilities or enhancing their ability to understand and respond to human emotions?
My priority would be problem solving first, because before we go into human emotions and others, even if I think they can solve the problem and then what we ask them, I think we can unlock so much the opportunity there for both the user standpoint and the business standpoint.
Manjeet, I have one closing question for you.
Yeah.
If I were to start and I want to become an AI agent developer
Right.
today, right? How should I go about?
Yes, two things. I think one is take this as an opportunity, like from mindset standpoint, right? You have to, I mean, there's this kind of a cliche in the growth mindset, but this is needed more even before, right? Don't feel overwhelmed by, hey, for example, everybody is in the Christmas launch party these days, not just OpenAI. If you see Google and gang ho, and then of course OpenAI is doing 12-day launch, and that I think we all find overwhelming. I also feel it, but then here's my playbook. I think that's working me well. I'll quickly share, and then it applies to your question also. So first is just a little based on where you are. Let's say in your case, let's say AI engineer, AI developers, what you want to become. Then is like, hey, what do I know or what do I don't know? And that thing is easy to find. You can literally ask ChatGPT. It's like, if I don't understand RAG, let me see the basics. Or if I, let's say, don't understand, let's say, how to write a good prompt. And so it's kind of filling few building blocks. Once you have that, it's a matter of consuming the right content. Just follow a few selected people only on 2 platforms. You don't have to go anywhere else. I think my top is Twitter, and then second is LinkedIn. Just a few curated ones. I use list in there, and then because there's a lot of crap out there, and then duplicate content, and then you want to have your feed tailored to what you want to learn in a given month, and then carve out time every week. Whatever, I mean, we all are busy. I'm also busy. 2 kids, full-time job, travel, a bunch of hobbies. Fitness. We were talking earlier. But I make sure I find time in the Friday or on the weekends, and then and then just kind of kind of continuous learning, and figure it out. How do you learn fast? What I realize is I learn fast when I listen to things, so that I consume a lot of kind of the audio content versus reading books versus reading And then the last thing is get your hands dirty. They say, hey, if AI will not replace you, but the people who have learned AI or use these tools, they will be at advantage, which means going back to my, like, if there is a 20 million this deficit of job, there's still 80 million jobs in there. And then if the how you can get qualified into those 80 millions. So and if you do it is kind of the see your career as a product, and if you do it over a period of time, in 2-3 months you will be, I think, at a good spot.
That's a wonderful way, thinking of your life as a product. You're truly the product executive that I started when I introduced you to the audience, and here we're coming back to thinking of life as a product. But that's a great way. That's a great way of thinking about your own life.
Yeah, awesome. No, I can maybe a little bit of we can end with one more. Basically, the thought tying back to a little bit of what we started in the beginning is there's two things I'm super passionate about, and I'll tell you why. So one is I've been building software product, and now more kind of building AI-driven intelligence product, right? So it's kind of I enjoy it, and that's what at the work side. Personally, I want to stay super fit, which means longer health span for really, really long time. So my take is if I'm like super fit for 100 years, 100 plus years, and then I know how to use AI, and if I combine those two, I think I will have an outsized impact in whatever I do. So I think there's two desires I have, and I've been spending time on those. So I think everybody should be more proactive in taking care of their health and wellness, because see, if your health starts to deteriorate, no agents will come and help you. So it's important to realize. I mean, I'm passionate about agent, but at the same time, I make sure I get my 30 minutes workout, not just build the best agent in the world, because if my back hurts, no agent can fix it.
Yeah. Be it a single, multi-agent, human agent, nobody can help.
Nobody. Nobody.
Your own hands.
Yeah, so I think your body is your body and mine, and I think you stay in there, and that's my recipe: early morning, 30 minutes, and then I think that's how I think about why I'm in this world and sort of impact in a long horizon.
Yeah. No, thank you, Manjeet. This has been extremely helpful, and love your closing remarks. That ultimately, irrespective of what we do, our health is of ultimate importance to us. So leave our users with that, viewers with that thought. And of course, thinking about our own life as a product, because that gives us multiple perspectives, including a roadmap and a vision and a purpose. Right. So that brings us toward the end of the show. Manjeet, really, really appreciate your time.
Arun, it was a blast. Thank you for having me.